Right then. Flies for Rostu.
Yep. Let's see your favourites then.
I've got a few secrets here.
Aha.
The most obvious choices for me, for this area, are dry flies. And my first choice would be big, strong clinkholmers. Yellow, brown, green. This one is very good.
Ah, that's a really good fly, really good.
I'm really grateful for them.
Do you remember when the first ones appeared?
It must have been, 92 or 93?
Yeah, in the early 90s.
Yes, I like that a lot. And what about you? That was my number one.
Well, a friend of mine said that his choice of flies depended on his friends. I usually have my friends in my fly box.
Sounds a bit morbid.
So one of my friends I just can't live without, Orchibuden's caddis, an early cork fly. And this cork fly looks a bit fat and sloppy, but they work really well and float perfectly.
And really good to fish with.
Yes, really good, especially for grayling. And they work well in all sorts of waters. I'd put this in the caddis group, but there aren't that many caddis up here as you'd find in central Sweden, for example. But they're very useful if you're fishing for grayling.
My next fly, I like sparsely dressed elk hair caddis with a yellow, green, or brown body and a grizzly hackle, and not so heavily dressed. You know, a body color that really works is orange. Not a fluorescent orange, but a muted orange with a grizzly hackle. A real killer.
Okay, how would you group it?
It's a caddis.
But you could even fish it just below the surface as well, couldn't you?
No, not elk hair.
But you can skate them, can't you?
That's the streaking caddis.
Yes, of course.
That could be a good fly, but for this area, the elk hair caddis is best.
My son caught a big trout on that one a while back.
Yes, he did.
But if we just go back to smaller flies, people often ask me what they should use in the mountains. And if you're there at the start of July, then everything can happen at once. Midges hatch, mayflies and caddis turn up, even daddy longlegs. Everything can come at once. But midges are definite, well, you know what it can look like up here in this area. It can change from one day to the next, when billions of midges just appear. Everything just explodes. And the fish eat midges, of course. So I think a midge imitation from Tjornejok can work. And you should know this better than anyone else. This is an excellent midge imitation. It's bigger than an ordinary midge, and there's no point in tying a small life-sized imitation when the air's full of the real thing. So you make it a bit larger. And you're actually this fly's designer.
Size 16.
Yes, size 16. So, don't go fishing in the mountains without a midge imitation.
Quite right. And I'll match you with this, Gunnar.
Okay.
I'm going underwater. These are the flies I must have with me in the mountains. I'll start close to the surface, and that's with a flim. It can imitate caddis, pupa, mayfly nymphs that are on their way up to hatch. And you fish it just in the surface film of... It's really effective, especially with grayling. But works well with char and trout too.
I remember. They haven't always talked about flimps. They started to use them about 10 years ago.
Right.
And then they were really popular. But today, I use them myself sometimes, but for me, it's a little furry fly that sinks a bit.
Yes, it's a fly with a soft hackle that you can fish with close to the surface. Actually, I often use it as a dropper, as a second fly when I'm fishing with another nymph and a strike indicator. Behind a heavy gold bead fly, so they dance around. They move really well in the water because of the soft hackle.
Yes, yes. Oh, well, back to me then. We talked about midges, caddis and mayflies, and even daddy longlegs.
That's right.
You know, daddy longlegs have never really been a favourite on the grayling's menu, or trout's menu. But sometimes they'll just go for them like crazy.
Aha.
And sometimes I've seen masses of daddy longlegs, most of them dead, and you can't see anything else. But then one might be alive and take off. I've had some wonderful fishing using a daddy longlegs, so I'm never without one. But I don't have so many of them in my box, just a few versions. This one's similar to the one you usually tie, but this was made by Leif Johansson in Hudiksvall. It's a really lovely fly. But Åke Bodén used to make daddy longlegs as well, using cork. He didn't think you needed to have legs on it.
Really?
It was the body shape that mattered. But the bit that stands up could be both legs and wings, so I always have that in my box.
I've got something here. Another daddy longlegs. I've started tying them with grizzly wings. See? This is a daddy longlegs as well.
Ah, we got a big fish on that one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they're fantastic.
You should always have them in your box, shouldn't you? And a daddy longlegs can also, if you're in this area around the 12th of July, or between the 7th and the 12th perhaps, when the alpine baetis hatch in their billions, then you can't use a baetis imitation, but a daddy longlegs will work. You can see them crawling up on the stones, then this'll work.
Agreed.
Have you got anything else?
Well, I'm back to the nymphs. And this, we were talking about this a bit, but I just must present the green caddis larva.
Of course.
You can tie it a lot of ways, and this is one version. But caddis larva and the Rostu area, they belong to each other. When you're not dry fly fishing, then you have to have a caddis larva with you, with a gold bead or without, but down to the bottom. Then you'll get a fish.
Can you explain the difference between pupa and larva?
Well, you can.
Often when we talk about a caddis, we talk about fishing with a caddis pupa.
Well, it's an egg that develops into a larva and then into a pupa.
It gets fatter, you could say, as a pupa.
Yes, right. And they're also useful to have with you.
Right, but you don't always see people fishing with those.
With the larva? No.
And this can even imitate, if you want to cheat a bit, it could imitate a mayfly nymph.
I suppose it could.
And that's what's so clever about many flies, that they can imitate lots of things.
True. That's true.
And lastly, but most interestingly, is this CDC material and this CDC mayfly we've talked about for ages. Do you remember when we sat by the Kyton River and chatted?
Oh, yes.
When we didn't know what the grayling would take. It was September and cold. Dusk was coming on and you scooped some water up in your cap and got a load of tiny mayflies. That was what they were eating. And you tied this CDC mayfly, which proved to be really useful throughout the whole fly fishing season.
Yeah.
If you want, you can tie it in yellow or brown or grey.
And it can imitate lots of different mayflies and baetis.
And I think it's important to give it a slender body. It shouldn't be fat.
No. The whole point of this fly is to make it as slim and sparsely dressed as possible.
And it floats like a cork.
Like a cork. Do you think we could dare to go fishing with that arsenal in our boxes?
I think we'll manage forever.
It feels like it.
Just as long as we got coffee.
And reindeer meat?
Precisely.
No meat, no fish.
That's right.
Off we go.